What does a recital mean, and how is it different from a concert? In today's video, I'm going to dive into what a recital is, recital etiquette, and a sneak peek of what it takes to produce one. Let's jump in. Hi, Cassandra here with Opera for Black Folks, and on this channel, I break down the classical arts and opera from a Jamaican American perspective. What is a recital? A recital is a performance or a program that is shared by a solo singer or a solo instrumentalist or a small group of performers. Okay, so why is it called a recital? Well, in the 1500s, a recital was strictly a legal term, which meant the statement of relevant facts. But the musical meaning of the word didn't come into fashion until the 1800s. But the root of the word is Latin, recitare, which means repeat from memory. So recital, as we just learned, is by a solo performer who is sharing music, poetry rather, that has been set to music. And a concert is usually a much larger venue and involves more than a small group of people. For example, Beyonce's concerts are much larger. She has dancers and multiple singers and multiple dancers. And that creates a larger musical experience, therefore it's for a larger audience and it's a concert, whereas a recital is usually for more intimate settings, usually in people's homes, churches, small theaters. It's a wonderful experience. So how long do recitals last? Well, recitals usually last about an hour, under an hour, and there's usually a break in between or a little intermission to give a chance for people to get up, refresh themselves, use the restroom, get a sort of cleansing of the ears, give your ears a bit of a break from what you've just listened to, and then go into the rest of the recital and, bring everything to a close. When is an appropriate time to clap in a recital? Usually at the end of that set. Now, it depends if you have a program and you can see how many songs are sort of grouped together. But if you're in a space where that's not defined, usually you will wait till the end of that person's music. Usually they will announce to say, please hold your applause until the end of XYZ, and then you'll know when is it appropriate time to clap. But in classical music, sometimes people get really excited and want to hoot and holler in the middle of the song that the person is performing, but it's best to refrain from expressing how much you love that music unless the performer encourages you to do so, but otherwise we sit and listen quietly out of respect for the work that this performer has put into reciting this poetry that's been set to music from memory. And then the last thing is that there's usually a reception to follow, which is like light bites and maybe a little bit of wine and cheese, and just basically a way to share and talk and mingle with what you just experienced and have a little bit of community afterward. It's a really lovely experience, and it's worth going to a recital if you can. All right. So what does a singer do or a solo singer do to plan their recital? Classical musicians or opera singers or anybody who's a solo performer will choose their recital or their performance or their program based on a theme. And so traditionally in classical music, at least what I learned when I was in college, to do a proper recital, you would do something that was very early, like Baroque music, and then you would progressively do music from every corresponding century thereafter until you come to music that's present day. And then within that, you can choose the music that you like. But today, I think people who are musicians and performers putting on cabarets and shows can choose to focus on composers of a particular diaspora. They can focus on music from a particular language or in a specific country. They can choose to focus on singing only Negro spirituals or art songs and folk songs or pop standards or musical theater. Or if you go into classical music, it could be opera or oratorio or art song, which is basically pop songs or folk music that's in different languages. We call that art song. There's such a wide variety of music out there that it's really up to the individual performer to decide what they want to share and share what they know they can physically sing without hurting themselves or doing things that are too difficult. You want to choose things that are all within your ability to do and do well. I often think about choosing music like trying on clothes. You want to put on clothes that show off your best assets and fit you well, don't make you look uncomfortable and you don't feel uncomfortable when you're in them. And music feels very much the same way, that you might really want to sing that song that that person does, and you might really feel all of the passion to want to sing that song, but when you try to sing it, it's just something about the way that it fits in your voice or how you're pronouncing it just is uncomfortable, and it's just not a good fit. I go into this a little bit more in How to Train Like an Opera Singer. You can check that video out either here or here. But yeah, finding music that fits your voice is a process, and usually singers have a collection of music that they've heard along their musical journeys and heard other performers performing them, and they sort of tuck them away and say, okay, maybe when it's my turn to do a recital, I'll pull this music back out and create, a lovely recital to share music that you love. All right, so how do performers prepare? It takes months of preparation because you're literally trying to memorize all of this music and all of these words so that you can recite an hour's worth of music. You only get one shot at it. You have some dress rehearsals, but it's kind of scary to say, okay, I'm going to trust that I've done all the work that I needed to in order to recite this. And of course, you practice that as much as you can, and there's all kinds of ways to practice. But then there's also studying the translations, researching the history, writing the notes, doing the research for all of the songs that you're doing so that you can speak intelligently about them. Also understand the background of why these songs have become songs. They were as a poem before that song became a song, or there was a story that needed to be told before that story was set to music, and it's your job as a performer to go and find out the why and be able to understand why the music is here, why it exists, and why it calls to be shared, so that you share the true intention of this music, which is, whatever the music is about, whatever the poetry is being about, whatever the story is being shared. You're basically a storyteller, and you have to do the research to make sure that you are telling these stories authentically and that you are sharing these stories authentically. At least that's what classical singers do. There's some variations, of course, in musical theater and pop and all that stuff, but ultimately a singer wants to be understood and wants to make sure that they represent the music well. Then, of course, there's practice, there's repetition, making sure that it's repeated. The music is repeated so often, the words are repeated so often that it becomes automatic, and that you can just trust that your brain goes into automatic mode because you've repeated this rhythm a lot. Basically, my favorite quote from Aristotle is, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So that's what, the end product is. Let's see if you pass the test. Do you have everything memorized? Is it ready for public consumption? Yeah. And then after all of that, maybe a dress rehearsal with your pianist and your collaborator to make sure that you both are on the same page and that everything works and that you understand each other, because it's not just you. It's you and at least a piano or a small orchestra that can help you produce this great music. And you want to make sure that you're all together, so that takes that practice too. But once all of those pieces have been put in place, it's really just having your audience, advertising, which leads me to the next, which is the most important part of putting on a recital is having an audience and moving from being the performer and the artist and the creative and the person who is trying to unearth and share stories and be this authentic storyteller, while also meeting all of the physical demands that singing requires to sing music in whatever way it's being written. There is the other business side of being the entrepreneur and creating that space to invite people so that they will come, because what is all that work for if there's no one there to enjoy it? So there's the marketing side, the selling of tickets, the learning how to promote yourself on places like social media, in person, via email, building a website, building your clientele, and then basically once you get that rhythm down, rinsing and repeating so that you can go ahead and put on another recital or put on another show and encourage your audience to come and support you, so that art is being shared in this wonderful way. So yeah, it's a lot. All right, that's my share for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button. I think it's here or maybe there, but please hit the like button So if you'd like to know more about my upcoming performances, please click the link in the description. I'm building my email list and I would love to be able to communicate with you guys outside of YouTube. I love sharing with you in YouTube, but then you'll also know what's coming because I am a performer and I do want to be performing for all of you. Click that link in the description. Remember to subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button and that notification bell so that you're notified of when my next video drops. And this is Opera for Black Folks, serving culture to all folks. Thank you so much for watching and I look forward to seeing you next week. Ciao.